Assalamu alaikum guys and welcome to my YouTube channel Biology Articles and MCQS. Guys, previously we have studied about the nitrogen cycle and carbon cycle. Our today's topic is the next biogeochemical cycle that is named as oxygen cycle. Guys, in the oxygen cycle, we will study that how the oxygen will move from the living organisms towards the living and non-living organisms, and from the non-living organisms towards the living organisms, and vice versa. Means you can understand that here we will study that the how the oxygen is moving through the atmosphere and lithosphere and hydrosphere, means how the oxygen is moving in the whole biosphere. Means how it will enter first in the animals, and then how it is transferred to plants, and how it will go into the atmosphere. So let's start the oxygen cycle in detail. First of all, guys, one thing you will need to know that the oxygen is present in the atmosphere in the large amount. You know that. And but how it is entered in the atmosphere, or where it comes into the atmosphere, first of all, we will study this thing. First thing that how the oxygen is entering in the atmosphere, means how the oxygen is produced. So there are main two ways to produce oxygen. First way to produce the oxygen is the photosynthesis. Here you can see that in the photosynthesis process, the carbon dioxide and water react in the presence of the sunlight and chlorophyll, and will form the glucose and a byproduct, which is oxygen. And guys, this oxygen will enter into the atmosphere. So this is the first way. But before studying the second way, we will consider this equation in some explained way, that where the carbon dioxide and water are coming. First of all, the carbon dioxide, that is the reactant of the photosynthesis, comes from the breathing of the living organisms, like animals and human beings. Means when we and the animals breathe out, we exhale carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide is carried by the plants. And the second reactant of the photosynthesis is water. And you know that the water is ourself given to the plants, and or it can also come in the form of rain, and the roots will take this water, and then the xylem will transfer this water from the roots towards the leaves, where the photosynthesis will occur. So these are the main reactants, carbon dioxide and water. And the third thing we need for the photosynthesis, and this is that thing without which photosynthesis does not take place, and that is light. So light is itself coming from the sun. So this is the main important thing, that photosynthesis will only occur in the presence of light. So it will the photosynthesis process will run only in the daytime. So these are the three things, and the chlorophyll is the fourth one, and the chlorophyll is itself present in the leaves of the plants. So these carbon dioxide and water mix up with each other, and the products are the carbohydrates and the byproducts, which is the oxygen gas, and this oxygen is released by the plants in the atmosphere. So this is the first way that how the oxygen enters into the atmosphere. Now we are going to study that the second way that how the oxygen is entering into the atmosphere, and this second way is photolysis. Guys, you know that in the atmosphere there are many gases are present, like nitrogen and carbon dioxide, oxygen, and along with these gases there are also a small amount, trace amount of water vapors present in the atmosphere. So these water vapors can change. You know that the water consists of the two hydrogen and one oxygen atom. So this water can split into the different components, and the one component will be the oxygen. But how this will split? This will split by the help of the process that is called as photolysis. Means for the splitting of these water vapor, for the breakdown of these water vapor, we need light. So and the light is coming from the sunlight. The light will be absorbed by the water vapors, and it will break down into a hydrogen and a oxygen a molecule, and this oxygen will is released into the atmosphere, and this ATP is also released. But here in the oxygen cycle we need only oxygen. So this oxygen is released in the atmosphere. This is the second way that is increasing the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere. Guys, these are only two ways that are producing oxygen. Now, the next we will going to study that those processes which will only use oxygen, and they will use oxygen, and in turn they will produce carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide will be used as the reactant of photosynthesis. So, moving towards the next step, the oxygen in the atmosphere is now inhaled by the animals and human beings. And you know that this process is called respiration. So the respiration is the first process which is using oxygen. Uh, After respiration, one time will come that the plants and animals and human beings die, and they will decompose. Next, and in you know that in the animals and plants and human beings, there are many organic molecules present, like carbohydrates, lipids, and fats. And these organic molecules will again use the oxygen and will split into the simple organic molecules and one inorganic molecule in the process which is known as decomposition. And this decomposition process is the second process which is now using oxygen. Here you can take simply the example of the organic molecules as carbohydrates, and carbohydrates will react with the oxygen, for example, and change into the glucose, and the inorganic molecule will be the carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide will enter into the atmosphere and then will used in the process of photosynthesis. Guys, but in the sometimes there is no oxygen in the soil is present. Here you see that in this process this oxygen is entered into the soil. But sometimes the oxygen is not present in the soil. There is an absence of oxygen, and there the decomposition process cannot run. So these organic molecules will then changed into the fossils, and that process will be fossilization. Means it will change into the dead remains of the organisms will buried into the soil, and after many years they will change into the hard shells and other hard matter, and that hard matter will be called as fossils. So if the oxygen will be present, then the organic molecules will decompose into the simple organic molecules. But if the oxygen is not present, then the fossilization process will occur. And after the fossilization process, the the hydrocarbons that are present in the fossil fuels like you know that coal, oil, and natural gas, and we use these all fossil fuels in the combustion process for our various needs of the daily life. And you know that these fossil fuels contain the carbohydrates. So sorry, hydrocarbons, different hydrocarbons. So these hydrocarbons will then react with the oxygen, and in turn they will produce the carbon dioxide and water vapors, and this process is called as combustion. Means the combustion process is also using the oxygen and then producing carbon dioxide, which will enter into the atmosphere again. So this is the third way, that is using oxygen. And the fourth way that you can use oxygen is rusting. And in the process of rusting, you know that the iron will react with the oxygen. Iron in the presence of oxygen and water vapors form a layer of a reddish layer on the surface of the iron, which is called as rust. And this process is also using oxygen. So this is the cyclic way that is moving. First of all, the oxygen is produced, and then oxygen is used in the processes of respiration, decomposition, combustion, and rusting. And all these four processes are producing carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide will enter into the atmosphere and again use for the process of photosynthesis, and the cyclic way will carry out. Continue again. I hope you understand all the things about this simple and simple cycle, that is oxygen cycle, and which is very important cycle in our daily life. If you like this video, then share this video with your friends. Thank you so much.